Meanwhile, more than 3,000 children are losing out on their education each day because of school suspensions. Data analysed exclusively by Sky News shows that for the first time, the number of girls facing suspension has risen at twice the national rate. Well, our People and Politics correspondent Nick Martin is here. Hi, Nick. So girls especially affected. Why do we think this is?
Well, the numbers are shocking, aren't they? I mean, the numbers of girls suspended up by 60% since the beginning of the pandemic. Researchers think there's a lot going on with girls in school. They tend to internalise their problems more. Boys tend to be a bit more aggravated and express that in bad behaviour. But we also know that the number of girls being referred to specialist units, that's when schools can't deal with them, that's also increasing, in fact, outstripping demand. So we've been to a school in Hull to talk to a girl who came very, very close to being permanently excluded, to try to understand what's going on. Because all this year, you'll know we've been looking at why children aren't going to school and the impact that the pandemic's had. And this, I think, is just another big warning sign that there's something very, very wrong in some of our schools at the moment. And the pandemic has had a huge impact on that.
Lacey was suspended several times for bad behaviour and came very close to being kicked out of school altogether. By her own admission, she was a tearaway.
My behaviour wasn't the best at all.
Right. Family life was far from plain sailing, and she says that added to her bad behaviour.
Everything just came out. Once all the sadness turned into anger, and I just started being real naughty. I was very, very, very close. Like, if I got like one more yellow card, I think, or something it was, I was permanently excluded. If I shouted at someone else, I was gone.
There are hundreds of thousands of Laceys out there, and they're losing out on huge amounts of school. In 2018-2019, before the pandemic, there were nearly 440,000 suspensions. Last year, that had risen to nearly 580,000. To put that into perspective, last year, those children missed more than 1 million days of school. These staggering new figures reveal that around 3,000 children each day are losing out on their learning because they've been suspended. The vast majority of them are children living in poverty. And for the first time, we can reveal that the number of girls being suspended has risen at twice the national rate.
They've metaphorically, not literally, blinded him.
Here at the Marvel College in Hull, they offer pupils who struggle with behaviour a space away from the mainstream classroom. It's called an alternative pathway, and it's designed to prevent the need to suspend or permanently exclude.
It helps me with focusing in classes, and I go in 3 days a week for maths, English, science and PE.
I used to be real naughty in years 7, 8 and 9, and I used to always get suspended, kicked out, and they put me on alternative pathways, and I'm doing better now.
I wasn't really in the classroom, it was more my anger and my behaviour. When I got too high rated, I just broke everything I could find, basically.
The rise in suspensions among working class children is no surprise to the head teacher here.
The postcode you live in shouldn't dictate your potential outcomes. You know, it's right that my community should be able to come to a great school with great resource, great learning, and if those children find that a challenge, well, they should have the resource to support them to succeed longer term.
But teaching leaders say schools need additional funding to support children at risk of slipping through the net. For Lacey, this alternative worked, and she's now heading off to college. But thousands of others are not so lucky.
Well, Nick Martin is still here with us. And Nick, what can the schools do? Because obviously want to help these kids.
Over the last few years, we've seen a rise in what's called alternative provision. So if a school can't deal with a child, they tend to be sent somewhere else. That alternative provision can alternate the timetable, they can learn vocational skills. In the most extreme cases, they can be sent to what's called pupil referral units. The sheer rise in the number of suspensions that we've seen in this report means that these alternative provisions are now full. So if you speak to a head teacher who's about to suspend a child, he's saying, where do they go? And the vast majority of these children are from backgrounds of poverty. So there's a very real worry that children who are suspended are going to be lost in the system. So schools like the Marvel College in Hull are going back to basics. They're trying to treat the problem within the school, like we've seen, but that costs money and school budgets are very tight. Now, the Department for Education have told us this morning that they support head teachers in trying to manage suspensions, and there is guidance out there. But the very real worry is, as I said at the start, that this is a warning sign that there are real weaknesses heading down the line for schools, and it is the poorer, disadvantaged children who are going to bear the brunt of it.
OK, Nick, thanks a lot.